our third floor annual Veterans Day ceremony. If you have not silenced your phone, please do so now. Would you please present the colors?
Carrie. Colors. Right. Face. Forward. March. Left. Face. Colors. Salute.
We now have the singing of the national anthem.
Right. Face. Forward. March.
Our next selection will be America the Beautiful, what's called an overlay. Third time through, I'd love for you guys to sing with us.
And
is home on the range. Oh, sorry. You can sit down.
Please acknowledge that we have the wreaths replaced during the songs. Feel free to come and look at those. They represent each of the armed services. At this time, we'd like to have the standing recognition for Brother Day. Go ahead and please hold your point. They're located in the back part of the free church.
Good morning. Welcome to the 14th Annual Veterans Day Agent Orange Balloon Release. The Washburn University student veterans and our junior ROTC cadets are also handing out orange carnations, and we will release 3 symbolic balloons shortly. Please feel free to take the flowers with you, or you may lay them at the Vietnam Memorial as you leave today. I would like to take a moment to recognize veterans present. Will you please stand as you are able? Thank you all for your service. We also recognize and remember veterans and family members who have been affected by Agent Orange. Roughly 2.8 million U.S. military personnel out of 7.4 million served in Vietnam between 1962 and 1971 and were exposed to Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a code name for a powerful defoliant deployed by the military to destroy forest cover and crops used by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops. Approximately 20 million gallons of the product were dispersed by aircraft, vehicle, and hand spraying over more than 4.5 million acres. The deadly toxin could literally take down a thick canopy of trees in a few days. Just imagine what these chemicals could do to the fragile human body. The containers used to store, transfer, and disperse these chemicals were painted in a rainbow of different colors: purple, pink, green, blue, white, or orange. Today, the term Agent Orange is used collectively to identify all chemicals used during the Vietnam War. Past reports of the National Academy of Medicine have recognized 50 diseases that fall under the limited or suggested evidentiary category, although the VA has only approved less than 20. Some of these diseases are chloracne, Hodgkin's disease, multiple myeloma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, peripheral neuropathy, prostate cancer, respiratory cancers, type 2 diabetes, and illnesses and birth defects for the veterans' children. The estimated number of casualties has been at 400,000, nearly 7 times as many as the 58,220 who died in combat, and the number grows daily. The effect of Agent Orange is recognized as an invisible weapon, still inflicting wounds on veterans and their families long after the end of the Vietnam War. Many have died, some committed suicide. Almost all became loners after the war. The Agent Orange Victims and Widows Support Network Incorporated is the originator of this event. The Quilt of Tears is a traveling memorial in honor of veterans of the Vietnam era who were exposed to Agent Orange. During the 1980s, the initial Quilt of Tears project was started by Jenny Lefevre, who was to commemorate the death of her husband, Gerald. Jenny, one of the original Agent Orange widows, dedicated her life to fight the battle pertaining to Agent Orange and its effects. When asked at what point she would stop her work, she replied, "Never. I will never quit as long as I can help people heal." She passed away September 8, 2004. And today, many other Agent Orange widows and surviving family members continue with her project. The Quilt of Tears has been described as an unbelievable sea of orange fabrics with hundreds of patches depicting the stories of those Vietnam veterans and families who have suffered with the effects of Agent Orange. A short poetic quote states, "Fear not, my great soldier, for your story shall be passed down through the years, because the fabric of your life is sewn into the quilt of tears." Today we come together with groups of people all across our country who pause to remember, reflect, and honor all those who have been affected by the use of Agent Orange. So on this Veterans Day 2021, let us pause for a moment of silence. At this time, we will release 3 symbolic orange balloons. One, and if you'll look to your left, out on the patio, those 3 balloons have been released. One, to remember those who have died from Agent Orange-related illnesses. One, to show our solidarity with those now suffering. And one, to express our hope for a future without any more harmful effects of Agent Orange. Thank you.
Hearing aids and masks do not go together. I would now like to ask Reverend Rich Down, please come forward for the blessing.
If you would pray with me, would you bow your heads? We ask, O God, that you bless our gathering here and in places all across our nation as we gather to honor the men and women who have served in this nation's call to defend us and protect us from without and from within. We thank you for the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Your word tells us that there is no greater love than one who will lay down their life for another. So we ask that you pour out your Holy Spirit upon all of us here gathered as we honor these men and women who gave up themselves for our nation. We thank you for all who have answered the call, those who have served, those who are serving, and those who will come forward to serve in our future. We thank you for the nation that you have given us. We praise you for the blessings that you have poured out for us and for all who have heard the call of freedom. And for your glory, these things I pray. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Farley, please come forward.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Washburn University. We are delighted to be a site today to celebrate this special time in our history. Today, it seems to me that the point of our being together was to remember and to honor those who have served us in the past and current. Thank you to each of you for not only what you have done, but for those of your families that have also served because of your service. I understand that it sometimes can be a little awkward when someone comes up to you and says, "Thank you for your service." Thank you for your service. I do that myself, and sometimes that just doesn't feel like it's enough. But I urge you to overcome that certain and small awkwardness that you feel. I served in the Army. I was an instructor at the school for drill sergeants. Hard to believe, isn't it? I am proud to have served at that school some of the best people that I've ever had the chance to know and to work with. I taught leadership. And I learned leadership while I was doing that from people that were true leaders. And they were doing spectacular things. In addition to teaching leadership, I taught how to teach. And I taught dismounted drill. Dismounted drill. There weren't many mules or horses where we were. So it was all dismounted drill. Put your right foot behind your left foot, slightly behind it, forward, pivot to the ball of your left foot, and turn to the right. How was that? I wish it hadn't been here. You should have seen my footwork. It was really good. Now today, it's different than in past remembrances days here at Washburn. Today, our country is not embroiled in a war. It's the first time probably in at least 20 years that we weren't at war on this Veteran Day. Some veterans, at least the ones that I was serving with, did not seem to receive the recognition when they came back from Vietnam. And so every year when this day comes by, I try to find someone who was serving them and thank them for what they did. It's an amazing effect that you have on people. Today, as I said, this is a day of remembrance. We should remember those people who have done so much for us so that we can continue to have all of the freedoms, all the things that we have because of what they have done. And so today, say a little thank you to all those who have served before us. Next year, we will not be in this room because next year we are going to have revitalized our memorial for veterans on the outside of the campus. We want that to be a very special place. We will recognize all the branches of service, including nurses that served across all of those branches of service. And it will honor everyone that was at Washburn at some point in their career and that they have done so well providing leadership because of what they learned in the military. Thank you for coming today to be with us. It's a privilege for me to be here, and I'm so proud of all of you that have served your country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farley. Please come up.
No, I'm not.
I think this is my favorite song. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Can you hear me? All right. We are really privileged to have our next and final number be in the Armed Forces Medley, where we sing and honor each of the services with their particular hymn. With apologies to the Space Force, we're just not there yet. Just like the military is a team sport, this is going to be a team sport for all y'all out there. And to help you out, so you know, the order of the hymns is the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army, right, Dr. Drill Sergeant? Yeah. Yes, the Army, and the Air Force. So if you're a veteran of that particular service, if you're serving in that particular service, please stand. Thank you.
From the rising of the sun till the battle's fought and won, we will fight for the right and defend our country. We're always ready for the call. We pledge our trust in thee through service.
Next will be our silent drill performance by Topeka High Marine Corps Junior ROTC.
Good morning all. Topeka High School, Marine Corps, Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Thank you to all veterans for your service. It's been an honor to perform for you today.
I'd like at this time to ask Chris Bowers to come forward, please.
Good morning. Found our guest speaker, of all places, over social media. He's through Kansas History Geeks on Facebook. He was talking about all of the great Kansans that made the ultimate sacrifice in various conflicts and wars. And that is why I asked him to be our guest speaker today. Lieutenant Colonel retired H. David Pendleton worked over 44 years with the United States Army. He has served on active duty, the inactive Ready Reserve, the Ready Reserve, and as a Department of Army civilian, Department of Army contractor. David graduated from Caney Valley High School and the University of Kansas. He received his commission through the Army ROTC program. During his service, military service, David served primarily as an infantry and civil affairs officer. He was stationed in 12 different places from Georgia to California. David's deployment included tours in South Korea and in Bosnia. His final assignment was at the Pentagon, where he worked as a personnel systems staff officer for the Civil Affairs Branch and the Special Operations Community. David's final assignment for the United States Army was as a senior military analyst at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. His military awards include the Legion of Merit, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal, and the Army Staff Identification Badge. Would you please help me welcome David Pendleton to the podium.
Thanks for that introduction. I also want to thank Chris Bowers and the Vietnam Memorial Committee of Washburn University for allowing me to speak today. I'm not much into public speaking and might even have a slight phobia about it. But today I am speaking because I wish to honor our veterans, and for thus I will try to overcome that fear. Today is Veterans Day. But it's not always been called that. In November 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day to honor those who sacrificed in the war to end all wars. Now we call that World War I. In 1926, Congress recognized World War I as a national resolution to make it a holiday and renamed it Armistice Day. In 1954, many veterans organizations urged Congress to change the holiday to honor all veterans. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Kansan at heart, made the change with the stroke of his pen, and the day became known as Veterans Day. Veterans Day has always been one of my favorite holidays of the year, and it is also one of my earliest memories. I grew up in a small town in southeast Kansas called Caney. If you get on Highway 75 and go straight south until you get spit into Oklahoma, you'll be in my hometown. Caney had a population of about 3,000 when I was born, a far cry from the 5,000 of 100 years before that, when it was a boom town of natural gas. It's a bedroom community. Most of the adults work in Coffeyville or Independence or even Bartlesville, Oklahoma, where my dad worked. It's not really famous for much, but it's one claim to fame. It was the home of the national president of the Future Farmers of America in 1973-74. His name was Mark Mayfield. I probably should have read this speech by him since he makes his living as a public speaker today. When I was young, Katy always had a Veterans Day parade. The town would swell to twice its normal number, and we have a big parade down 4th Street. That's the main street in town. It would have a dozen bands from around the area, a bunch of floats, and military veterans that would come out and march along with them. Mostly men, but there was a few women as well. There was sometimes a carnival, and then the Page Milk Company in Coffeyville would send over a converted fire truck to give rides to kids around town. But those activities were fun, but that's not what I enjoyed most about Veterans Day. It was one of the 2 times of the year my paternal grandfather would come from Denver, Colorado to visit my hometown. So I'd see him twice a year. He enjoyed traveling and would take slides from his latest trip, like Ireland or England, London, or some other European destination. While my family thought the slideshows were boring, I had actually enjoyed the photography. Later, I found out my grandfather had learned how to be a photographer from the Army. In 1942, my paternal grandfather was drafted. He was 44 years of age. The maximum draft age at the time was 45, and he was not able to get a deferral because he was divorced, his only child was over 21, and selling used cars was not considered a vital national defense industry. After his training at Lowry Field in Denver, he was sent to the China-Burma Indian Theater as an aerial reconnaissance photographer for 3 years, flying reconnaissance missions. He was not the first Pendleton to serve in the military. I come from a long line of Pendletons that have served. My paternal 12th grandfather, Brian Pendleton, was residing in the Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1628. That's almost 400 years ago today. He was primarily a surveyor and a businessman, but he was also elected or earned the rank of major in the Massachusetts militia. The National Guard of the United States, the Army National Guard, they traced their heritage back to those first militia units in Massachusetts that my great ancestor was from. This is not the first time, okay. On my direct line between Brian and me was a father and son who both served in the Revolutionary War. But this is not the only time 2 Pendletons served together as father and son in the same war. I told you about my grandfather serving in World War II, but my father served also. He enlisted in the Missouri National Guard in 1937 at the age of 17 and graduated from college in May of 41. In December of 1941, his Guard unit was mobilized, but on the middle of the month, he was discharged because of poor eyesight. But by March of 1942, my father was back on active duty. Either his eyesight got better or the Army needed more men. The Army would not send him overseas, however, but they trained him to be a radar operator in Kansas City and in Arkansas. Then they sent him to a radar installation in Florida, in Miami Beach. So my father got to spend the next 3 years manning a radar installation in Miami Beach while his father, twice as old as him, was in the China-Burma Indian Theater. My father, however, served in uniform from 1937 to 1973, ending up as a master sergeant from the Army Reserve. While my father never actually encouraged his family to serve in the military, 4 of his 5 children ended up doing so. 2 enlisted, 1 on active duty, serving in the airborne in Alaska, 1 in the National Guard. 2 others joined as officers, commissioned with the University of Kansas. I was retired from active duty. My sister retired from the Army Reserve as a lieutenant colonel. I went to KU on an Army ROTC scholarship and received my commission in 1981. I planned only to serve 4 years, get out, and get rich to be by being an engineer. One semester at KU told me I wasn't made out to be an engineer. I served 23 years in the infantry and ended up in civil affairs. And my undergraduate degree was in European history with a focus on Germany from 1871 to 1945. I also have a master's in military history with an emphasis on World War I. I was originally a World War II historian, but when I retired from active duty, I came to live in Lenexa, and I decided I'd volunteer at the National World War I Museum. That made me interested in that war. And so I used to read about a book a week on World War I, and I said, hey, I might as well get a master's degree. So I did. And so I got a master's degree from Norwich University, writing about World War I whenever I had a chance. You're probably asking yourself at this time, when is this blowhard going to get to Vietnam? Well, let's go there right now. The time is late January 1968. I'm only 8 years old. I'm trying to learn cursive in 3rd grade. On the other side of the world, the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong launched the Tet Offensive on January 30th. This event changed my life. My father at the time was the first sergeant of the 1011th Supply and Service Company in Independence, Kansas. In May of that year, they were mobilized to go to Vietnam, stopping first in Fort Benning for additional training. My brother graduated that May, but the Army wouldn't allow my father to go to the graduation, so he went straight with his unit to Fort Benning, so he missed the graduation. The 1011th deployed to Vietnam, but my father did not go with it because of medical reasons. However, the Army kept him on active duty for 19 months. A year and a half is a long time in the life of a 9-year-old boy. I saw my father once during that period of time, and except for that visit to Fort Benning, I never talked to him. We couldn't afford the long distance bill. The Vietnam War affected our family in other ways as well. My brother was still draft eligible since he graduated in '68 from high school. Instead, he took ROTC, Army ROTC at Caulfield Community Junior College, and while there he earned a 2-year Army ROTC scholarship to Pittsburgh State University, and that's where he went. He was going to be an officer, and he was on track to graduate in 1972 at the tail end of the Vietnam War. Late during his junior year, he suffered 2 severe injuries. First, he was hit by a car on campus while crossing the street, breaking one of his legs. After he recovered from that broken leg, he was doing military training and broke his other leg. That leg did not respond to treatment too well, and so the ROTC program disqualified him from medically. With the loss of his scholarship, he had to drop out of college 1 semester short of his degree. For whatever reason, a few years later, he was able to enlist and go airborne. Imagine that. A few years ago, I found the list of 627 service members of those with a Kansas Homer record who died in the Vietnam War. I'm a numbers person, so I wanted to see where they were all from in the state. So I put the information on a spreadsheet, and after I did that, I sorted it, and then I put the numbers on a map of Kansas, just to see you know, where the people came from that made the ultimate sacrifice. I thought it was fascinating that almost 1/6 of all those who died were from Sedgwick County. That makes sense since Wichita is our state's largest city. 40 of them were here from Shawnee County. And then 47 of them are associated with Washburn University in some manner. Their names are on the memorial outside. Almost every county in Kansas lost at least one service member in Vietnam. In early April of this year, I ran across that old spreadsheet, and this is about 8 weeks before Memorial Day. I asked myself, what could I do to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation in Vietnam? The answer to my own question is that I would do a mini biography of each person who made the ultimate sacrifice and post it on a website called Kansas History Geeks, because their lives are Kansas history. By looking at several websites, I was able to piece together basic information on each individual, especially during their time in Vietnam. For some individuals, I found lots of information and pictures, others not so much. I tried to weave any information I had into a story, fairly short, usually about 5 paragraphs, that would give the readers a sense of the individual, both in the military and sometimes even before they served. A few relatives of these fallen heroes have reached out to me and provided additional photographs and information about their fallen hero. After posting on Facebook, other family members have contacted me to thank me for what I did. I just want to make it clear that I was not seeking any recognition. I just wanted to provide our Kansans a little snapshot of the heroes that lived among us. My project has helped me personally learn about the Vietnam War. I've taken a couple of history classes on the Vietnam War, but they were long ago and they are always at the strategic level. History is different from a combatant's perspective, and what is mostly written in the books is superficial. My research showed that all 627 Kansans killed in Vietnam were heroes in some way. Hundreds of small, selfless acts of courage took place daily in Vietnam. Each service member knew that each day they woke up, they were one day closer to coming home. Instead of trying to protect themselves from harm in order to get home, time and time again, those heroes went out to help their buddies who were in danger. The remains of 41 of the 627 Kansans killed in Vietnam still have not been located, repatriated, or identified. There are approximately 63,000 Vietnam veterans that currently reside in our great state. That is 2,181 Vietnam veterans for every 100,000 Kansans. Oscar Hammerstein wrote in the music Carousel, "As long as there's one person on earth who remembers you, it isn't over." Let's make sure that we remember the Vietnam veterans that served so it's never over for them. But this day is not only for us to honor those that served in Vietnam, but Veterans Day is for anyone that has ever served. This could be a service member from World War II, Korea, Panama, Grenada, Desert Children's, or Afghanistan, Iraq, or any of the other campaigns that have taken place over the years, even if that service member never left the States or never served in combat. Any veteran is in an elite group. There are currently around 19 million veterans in the United States. That's less than 10% of the adult population. Each year, the percent of Americans that have served has gotten less. A simple analogy is the sheep, the wolf, and the sheepdog. Those of us that serve in the military are the sheepdogs protecting the flock from the wolves. Sheepdogs are willing to die for their flock. We can always use more sheepdogs. Thomas Paine, the American Revolutionary, said, "If there must be trouble, let it be in my day, that my child may have peace." While we may wish that this statement is no longer true or possibly needed, we must all remain vigilant to any person or group that promises us security in return for sacrifices of our freedoms. Benjamin Franklin said, "Those who surrender freedom for security will not have, nor do they desire either one." Let us all remain vigilant against all encroachments on our freedom. On this day, we annually recognize those who have stood the watch to protect our freedoms, but especially those who serve in Vietnam today. Thank you for your time, and may God continue to bless Kansas and the United States of America.
That was excellent. I really like it. Thank you. At this moment, we're going to hear me now. Okay, this mic up. We're going to do something called veteran tribute. With that resolved, we're going to have a moment of silence. Inside the program with the names, we'll hold it down. Thank you. Tap.
you pray with me again, please? We thank you, Father, for the men and women and their families who have served our nation all these years. And now as we go from this place, may we carry the honored memory and the cherished dreams of our nation. And may we do all we can to be granted the privilege to fulfill those dreams and to honor their memory. I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Please take a seat. I can't tell you how good it is to look out and see people looking back at you. Last year we made a video of this because of the pandemic. It's nice to see people in the seats at our ceremony. So, our theme this year was keeping the promise. One thing that makes the American warfighter so successful on the battlefield is promise. It's not written anywhere, but if you go missing or you're captured, you know from that moment on, we're looking for you and we're trying to get you back. So for those that do come back with your shield or on it, there's that piece that also says you'll not be forgotten. You'll be honored. Recently, we started that motion here on the Washburn campus. I heard Dr. Farley talk about how he used to teach leadership to soldiers, to drill sergeants. I don't think he taught it, I think he showed it. I think he lives it. Because recently he started a fund to get us towards a new memorial. Through him, we got a generous gift. Through that generous gift, we now have what we need to get our new memorial. Dr. Farley, would you please stand up? Would everybody please give Dr. Farley not only did he teach it, he still continues to preach it, he still continues to demonstrate it. Thank you, Dr. Farley. From our committee, from the student veterans of Washburn, to you. Thank you. Shirley Jacobson, would you please stand up? Since 2010, Shirley Jacobson has helped us with the echoing taps. So will we please give her a round of applause? This concludes our ceremony. Thank you from all of us on the committee for sharing your day with us. Thank you to our guest speaker for talking about Kansas and for our sacrifices as veterans and for our 47 Ichabods who are on our memorial. Thank you one and all. Have a great Veterans Day.